And let's bring in now Obama White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs and former RNC chairman and co-host of MSNBC's The Weekend, Michael Steele. Good to see you guys. Michael, this wasn't even close. Moreno won every county in the state, more than 50% of the vote. Are you surprised?
No, I'm not. And it really goes to how non-MAGA Republicans have competed against MAGA Republicans. You showed some of the exit polling. The question I'd like to get an answer to is what percentage of all registered Republicans in the state of Ohio actually voted in this primary, and I bet you that number will be somewhere between 15 and 20%, or even 25%. Meaning there were a lot of votes that were left on the floor that could have been utilized in this election, and we see this across the board. You have this hard right base, and it's true. It's been true in politics a long time. That are the ones that come out. So I'm not surprised Donald Trump endorses Moreno. Now Moreno's got to cobble together, support from those Republicans who are not MAGA, who do not like Trump, and who aren't turned on by this endorsement to go up against Sherrod Brown. Remember, Sherrod Brown's campaign had a little love they shared with Moreno's campaign to help him get across the line, too. So they saw Moreno as the weaker of the three candidates. Matt Dolan would have been a more formidable candidate, I think had a broader appeal across the state. But that's not what MAGA's about. It's about what Trump wants, not what will actually win an election.
Robert, Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown took a shot at Moreno this morning on a key issue Republicans have been having a hard time handling: abortion.
Even though Ohio strongly, decisively, importantly passed abortion rights constitutional amendment by 13 points last fall, my opponent continues to say that we should have a national abortion ban. No exceptions for rape, no exceptions for life of the mother. And so we know that the arrogance of, even though we said that by 13 points in the state, he's going to continue to fight against it, tells you he's looking out for himself more than the people of Ohio.
And then, Robert, just this morning, Trump said he would be open to a ban on abortions at 15 weeks with some exceptions. So obviously, Senator Brown wants this to be a big issue for the election. How do you see this one issue factoring into the race, that particular race, and the battle for Senate control?
Well, abortion is going to play a huge role in Ohio and a huge role really across the country. As Senator Brown said there, Ohioans overwhelmingly supported choice and supported a woman's right to have an abortion in a statewide election. Again, the polling is pretty clear on this nationwide, and I have a feeling you're going to see a lot of this. Particularly, you see Sherrod Brown there distinguishing even what Trump is for, which is something that's a 15-week ban, something that has exceptions. The Senate race now is with a contestant that is for a full ban and no exceptions. That's way, way, way on the extreme edge of this issue. Look, Sherrod Brown is in a tough race, probably the toughest race in the country, along with Montana. And Sherrod Brown's going to have to go find some Trump Brown voters. He's probably as well positioned as any Democrat in Ohio to do that, however.
Michael, switching topics here, Axios is reporting that some rather controversial characters are reattaching themselves to Trump's inner circle now that he has locked up the Republican nomination. They're returning as Trump more aggressively touts January 6 rioters as patriots, ramps up his racist, incendiary rhetoric, and embraces some of his most provocative loyalists. So we're talking about people like Corey Lewandowski, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone. Michael, what does this tell you about what to expect from his campaign in the coming months?
All hell's going to break loose. This is all in. Manafort coming back in is to set up control of the convention so that there are no slippages. You know, having Trump's people on the rules committee to control the rules of the convention, the flow of the convention. You've got Lewandowski and you've got others who are keen political operatives for Trump that will be out and about in enforcing a strategy that will take no prisoners. And I don't think people really appreciate exactly what we're going to be in for. And then you layer on top of that the political use of AI by some of these folks who know how to utilize that type of platform. This campaign is going to be very difficult on the country because these folks are all about one thing and one thing only: Donald Trump's absolute return to power. It's not about return to the presidency, people. It's about his return to power. Because the man has told us what he wants to do, and everyone's still walking around, especially Democrats, with their heads someplace other than in this game, worried about Joe Biden's age. You better worry about the 78-year-old man who says he wants to be a dictator, not the 81-year-old man who's trying to protect a democracy. And that's what this breakdown is: extremism versus freedom. And Donald Trump has very clearly declared where he stands, and it's not on the side of freedom.
Robert, I also want to ask you about something Trump said and how Democrats are battling that. Second gentleman Doug Emhoff is now responding to Trump's comments, claiming that Jews who vote for Democrats hate Israel. Listen.
This is a disgusting, toxic, anti-Semitic thing to say by anyone, let alone a former president of the United States, and it must be condemned.
Robert, Trump is going to keep saying outrageous things. What is the best way for Democrats to respond?
The best way is to do exactly as the second gentleman has done here, and that's to call it out. Look, and everybody, including the second gentleman, is going to have a great opportunity to do that over and over again, because Donald Trump continues to push the envelope. These were disgusting remarks. These were anti-Semitic remarks. And good for Doug Emhoff, good for the Anti-Defamation League and others to call this sort of ugliness out. You're going to see it. You're going to hear it repeatedly. And it's important to, one, push back and to use it, Democrats to use it as a motivator, as Michael said, to understand what 4 more years of Donald Trump would look and sound like. We're going to get a lot of how it would sound. But I think to many people believe exactly what he says about how those 4 years will look. That's a huge motivating factor for getting Democrats out to the polls this year.